What is going on, guys, and welcome to the Alchemist Beginner's Guide. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. If you guys do, consider subscribing and joining the Dota Chronicles community. I am constantly trying to pump out guides for different heroes so beginner players can learn how to play these heroes and not feel so overwhelmed by a ton of information. So let's start off with the facet you guys are going to be using. You guys are going to be using the seed money facet. That is pretty much the best facet because Mixologist, while on paper it does look really good, seed money gives you a much better advantage, and any advantage when it comes to gold, especially starting gold, is going to be absolutely fantastic. It could easily sway very difficult matchups in your favor. So this is going to be the facet you guys are going to be starting with. And pretty much on Dota 2 Pro Tracker, everybody is using this facet. Your skill build, you're going to be maxing your acid spray, which that's going to be your farming tool, and your concoction is going to be your stun. You're going to be maxing out those two. That's going to be your most important ability when it comes to farming. That acid spray, you're going to be maxing it every single time. And then your concoction, you can use it to harass in lane, but you need to be very careful as people can just juke through the trees, and without that vision you're going to be stunning yourself and put yourself in a really difficult situation. So if you can see that they're playing around trees a lot, you shouldn't be using your stun unless you cast it quickly while they're still in vision, but you're not going to be doing as much damage and your return on investment is not going to be very high. So I don't recommend you guys doing that. Your starting items, you're going to have a set of tangos, a full bracer, a quelling, and 2 branches. That is pretty much the standard I'd like to go for. You have a lot of damage for you to be able to last it. You have your tangos, and then you have your 2 branches for these extra stats. Now, if you're gonna get benefit from having a stick in lane, then you go for your tangos, a quelling blade, a stick, 2 gauntlets of strength, and then whatever gold you have left, you can get yourself a branch, or you can pick up a blood grenade. It's definitely up to you, or you just save up for the soul ring, which is the upcoming item. You're gonna be saving up for the soul ring. I see a lot of players also getting the treads before the soul ring. It really depends on the lane. If you're getting stick charges, then yes, you can get the soul ring at a later timing, but if you're not getting stick charges in the lane, or you don't have a stick, then definitely rush the soul ring. You're going to be needing it for the lane. Alchemist has a lot of mana issues, especially early on. You're going to be casting a lot of concoctions and a lot of acid sprays to farm, so you need to be topped up when it comes to mana, and make sure your regen is also up there, as you're going to be consuming quite a bit of tangos because you don't have your level 6, which is chemical rage. You're not going to have that heavy regen, so don't stress out on buying a salve here and there if you do need it, especially if you're taking stacks early on, that you might need to do so, because sometimes lanes are very difficult. And let's say Alchemist isn't the god of laners, he is definitely very strong, but some matchups are definitely much more brutal for him, and you might be kicked out of lane around level 4, level 5, which isn't a really big deal. Acid spray just helps you farm so fast that it's not really a big concern. And one recommendation I do have for you guys is to stack for yourself. Stacking for yourself is very important because you don't have to depend on screaming at supports or getting very tilted. You do it yourself, you're going to be doing very well off. You don't even have to be so close to the camp. You can just cast your acid spray, and that's going to be doing damage to that camp. So when you come back, the creeps are going to be much more damaged, and it's going to be easier for you to pick up these stacks. Also, keep in mind, you need your Grievel's Greed stacks to be high. The max is 18, so try when you go take a stack that they are at 18, because that's going to make your farm a lot more optimal. It's going to mean all these creeps are going to give you 18 extra gold. Very important. I don't like going into stacks if I can help it with very few stacks, because it's just not as optimal. A lot of players always ask me, what is the right time to be taking stacks and getting away from the lane? So if you see that they're rotating a lot into you and they're just creating a lot of pressure, shove out the wave with acid spray and then go take your jungle camps. That way you are not losing out on lane farm, which gives you the most amount of XP and gold, and you're going to be taking those side camps in your free time. Now, if you're being pressured so heavily that you can't even show up to the wave, then obviously go full mode jungle, and then you're going to be a lot safer there. You're not going to make as much gold, but there will be a moment where you're going to be able to make that gold back, because usually once they take the safe lane tower, you're able to get a lot more farm because they're not going to be pressuring as hard. They already got their objective, so they're going to be usually pushing off, unless it's a hero like Beastmaster and heroes of that nature that like to stick around and go for the tier 2 right after that, and they don't like to group up as much early on, then you're kind of screwed. But if it's a hero that just wants to take your tower quickly and then get out and go do something else on the side lanes or take ancient camps, then you're easily going to be getting that farm back. As well as make sure your team can help you stacking ancients. You can do it yourself, but it's very underwhelming. You're not going to be all over the place stacking for yourself all the time. So just ask your team nicely and they should be able to do it. The more stacking people do for Alchemist, the stronger his timings are going to be, and your timings are pretty much Radiance Blink. I like to start going around the map and getting involved when I have Radiance Blink. Without that, it kind of feels like a grief. Now, however, However, you could jump into a side lane with your Radiance and still win a team fight. That's not what I'm saying. It's just you are more effective in the jungle, getting that gold, getting these timings much quicker because you are able to push a timing that other heroes cannot get. Alchemist can get 9 to 10 minute Radiances. Obviously, that's for pro players. Most pub players are never going to be getting that. You're not farming as optimal as these guys. But even if you're aiming for a 14-minute Radiance is not bad. It's pretty good. You're still going to be pushing a much better timing than most heroes. You can still go for a 12-minute Radiance type of timing. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's very difficult to get that very consistently. But if you aim for a good Radiance timing, you're going to be having a really good time around the map, as other heroes typically cannot get it at this time. Now let's break down your talent tree. So your level 10 talent that you're going to be taking is plus 125 concoction radius. That is the better one because -1 acid spray is just not that great. Honestly, it doesn't do a whole lot. So that one is not that great of a talent. Your level 15, you're going to be getting +2 damage per Grievel's Greed stack. So that's always going to be nice, a very decent damage boost, and you're usually going to be pretty high on stacks anyway. So I do like to see that extra damage, and it is one of my favorite talents to be taking. Now the level 20 talent is very hit or miss. Players go one way or another, so it's definitely up to personal preference. I like the -0.1 second chemical rage base attack time. Just makes me attack much faster, and at this stage of the game I already have damage items and I do want to be hitting as fast as possible to increase my damage. You could take your concoction damage if you are playing heavily around the concoction, then definitely take it. It's not a bad talent. It is quite a lot of damage for your concoction and it can be definitely very deadly, and if you are playing the Conda build on Alchemist, then go for that. Other than that, I do like extra attack speed much more than the concoction damage. And your level 25 is going to be the +50 chemical rage regen. You could also take the movement speed if you're playing up against heroes with Scotties and heroes that are just going to be limiting your ability to heal, then maybe that movement speed is going to be much better for you to be able to move around the map more efficiently and get out of sticky situations. That might be the play. So it's definitely up to you on which one you pick. I usually just end up going for the regen anyway because +50 is definitely no joke, plus your chemical rage. So you're going to be able to out heal a lot of sorts of damages that might be an issue in the late game. To come back to the item builds, you guys should be picking up after the Radiance Blink. You should be getting yourselves a BKB or an AC. If you feel like you're not going to be controlled as much, then definitely pick up the AC. You're going to be getting much more damage out of that item. But if you see that they have a lot of stuns or a lot of ways to grief you, then definitely get that BKB and then you can go back for the AC. I do like items like Daedalus and Butterfly and even Monkey King Bar, Abyssal Blade, and eventually upgrading into a Swift Blink is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite things to do. Swift Blink just unlocks this hero so much, and once you consume the Moon Shard in the ultra late game, you're going to be doing so much damage off that crazy attack speed, and having an Abyssal Blade is just going to secure your matchup against a lot of these pesky carry heroes that can easily go toe-to-toe up against you. Heroes like Ursa that can easily man fight you with an Abyssal Blade and a ton of attack speed. They're just not going to be getting out of the stun lock, and then they're going to be having a shit ton of issues with that. So attack speed is king once you have a lot of damage. And items like Daedalus, if you don't need to pierce any evasion, I do like the Daedalus quite a bit, but Monkey King Bar also gives you attack speed, so it does feel really good to have an item like this. Now let's talk about some of the best and worst matchups for the Alchemist. Some of the best matchups are Mars, Marcy, Phantom Assassin, Doom, and Tiny. These matchups you do very good up against, especially heroes like Doom. Even though you might be doomed, if you popped off Chemical Rage or you have a BKB, you're still going to be doing really good. Heroes like Tiny don't do a whole lot to you, even their combo, just because you regen so much from Chemical Rage. Heroes like Phantom Assassin, if they are out farming you somehow because you're having a really crappy game, that could be very detrimental to you because she does quite a lot of damage, and Desolator is an item that does very good up against Alchemist. Even though you have an AC, Desolator just still shreds heroes left, right, and center. So it's a matchup that you do have an advantage, but it's not a crazy advantage, so be careful and make sure you buy that Monkey King Bar ahead of time. That way Phantom Assassin doesn't create any problems for you in the late game. Some of the bad matchups are Bloodseeker, Shadow Demon, Lich, Earth Spirit, Queen of Pain, Bounty Hunter. These heroes are quite difficult for you to deal with. Bloodseeker because you get ruptured, and once you get ruptured, you start getting pushed back by the fast set of Bloodseeker. It's extremely annoying, and you can definitely get run over by a Bloodseeker, and with the Blood Mist and the Bloodstone build, it can become difficult for you to man up as an Alchemist, but it's not one of the worst matchups. Shadow Demon is definitely a very difficult matchup because he makes illusions of you, and that is very difficult because you have a Radiance, and they can definitely start killing your own teammates, and that can be quite problematic in itself. Heroes like Lich and Earth Spirit just kite the hell out of you. Lich is very, very tanky with his Frost Armor and kind of lock you down, and it can be very, very difficult. And heroes like Earth Spirit with the Magnetize and the way he can just kick you away from the fight can be a very big grief for a big initiation for an Alchemist. And heroes like Queen of Pain and Bounty Hunter just do a shit ton of damage to you. So they're matchups that you definitely want to pick up an Orchid or an Abyssal in terms of the Bounty Hunter, so you can take him out quite quickly. And same for Queen of Pain. If you pick up an Orchid and a Basher, you're going to silence them and you're going to stun them into oblivion and get rid of them. So they're matchups that are definitely difficult to deal with, but you can definitely come on top. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, definitely leave a comment down below and let me know what is your favorite hero in Dota right now. That is the question for today. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.